Okay. So I just finished Shadow and Bone Season 2, and I have a lot of thoughts. So let's go. Hi everyone, my name is Michaela. A little bit of backstory. I am a huge Six of Crows fan. I have loved those books for a very long time. And the Shadow and Bone books, I think we all know how we feel about them. They're alright. And I watched season 1 when it came out, whatever that was, 2 years ago, and I really, really liked it. I thought that the writers did an amazing job balancing, trying to integrate the crows into this storyline, and I love what they did with the Shadow and Bone storyline because I didn't love those books very much, but I actually loved the characters and the storyline so much more than I did in the books. So I was pleasantly surprised and very excited for season 2. So this is going to be my thoughts, my review. There will be spoilers. I'll try not to do too many. I'll try not to spoil the show as much, but there will be some spoilers for Six of Crows because I have thoughts, and yeah, I don't know how to do that without spoilers, so. Overall, my sort of opinion of season 2 is the quality has been greatly improved. I think just set design, costume, production, amazing production quality, even special effects, all that sort of stuff looked really, really good. I thought the acting was phenomenal and the writing itself was very good. I think, as with season 1, they did a really good job to sort of mesh two different storylines and sort of integrate characters that aren't in the Shadow and Bone books and having that meld together. I also really loved doing book 2 and 3 of Shadow and Bone in one. Actually, as I was watching, I was trying to figure out like what they cut out of the books, and I couldn't remember much. Like, I think they hit all the main points of the books, which just goes to show you how like slim pickings there was in those books. They were not very fleshed out. So I thought that was fine, and it didn't feel rushed or anything to get through all of that. If anything, the ending, I made a note where it was like, the ending was like Lord of the Rings. You know, the third movie where you get like 18 different endings? That's kind of what this felt like. It was like, okay, this is this ending, and then this ending, and this ending. And like the main story part ended within the first like 10 minutes of episode 8. And then it was just wrapping everything up for an hour, which did drag a little bit. And I was kind of like, okay, I know the setup you're doing. I know what you're setting up for. Let's just go. But it was fine. Overall, it was fine. I did enjoy the season as a whole, even though there was a few parts that I got a little angry at, but that's okay. I also really loved the, the map. I remember I watched a review of someone who was going over season 1, and they mentioned how hard it was to keep track of like, where is Novia Zem and where is Novichobrizk and where is Ketterdam and where is all of this in comparison to itself. And having the map kind of like Game of Thrones where you walk through and you're like, okay, this is here and then this is here. It's a great visual, and I'm really glad they included it for season 2 because I think it made a big difference in terms of understanding where everyone was traveling to, where things were in relation to other places. I really liked that. I thought that was a great addition, and it's clear that someone listened to fans and was like, they want that, we'll do it. One of the things I wanted to talk about is the issue of the books versus the show. I know, and I'm one of those people, Six of Crows is a very near and dear series to me. It's one of my favorite book series of all time. That duology is so good. And it is clear from people who have never read the books that they always talk about how amazing the Crow characters are, and that really speaks to the writing in Six of Crows and the character development that Leigh Bardugo put into writing that series and creating those characters. because even without the plot of that book, people still love those characters. And I am one of them. And I have to say, I really do applaud the writers for trying to navigate. It's got to be such a difficult situation to navigate how to make everyone happy, because there are Six of Crow fans, there are book like Shadow and Bone fans, which, I mean, there's not a lot of you, but I know you're out there. And there are also fans who've never read any of the books and just love season 1. And so you have to try to balance all of that while still writing a good show and keeping the doors open for possibilities. And there were certain things that they put in this season that, as a Six of Crow fan, made me a little upset. I felt a bit like they were really big moments in the Six of Crows books, and to just put them in this season, I'm worried that if we do get a Six of Crows show, it will take away from that, and that did make me a little upset. Probably the biggest one, and this is a little bit of spoilers if you haven't seen the show or read the books, but the takedown of Pekka Rollins. And on one hand, once I thought about it a little, I was like, okay, you know, in the next season, if they do the Six of Crows storyline, they can just have Van Eyck be the sort of main villain, and that will be fine. And they can have the ending like they did in Crooked Kingdom without taking down Pekka Rollins. But that's such a huge character development thing for Kaz that I felt a bit like by the end of the season, he didn't have anything to push forward to anymore because he'd taken down Pekka Rollins. So it felt a bit like we'd cut Kaz's character development off after that point, and I didn't like that because that is such a driving force for his character, and I didn't like that we dealt with all of that in a non-Six of Crows show. So that was probably the big thing for me. The little stuff I didn't mind, and actually Wylan and Jesper, I'm sure some fans will be upset about their character development in the show, but I liked it. I thought it set up some good stuff, and I don't think it took away from anything that will come up in Six of Crows. In fact, I was thinking about it, and I was like, that kiss scene with, what's his name, Kauai Bo something from the books, I can't remember, but that scene, y'all know that scene, that will actually be in some ways much more dramatic if Wylan and Jesper already have a pre-established relationship, so I'm not angry at that. I can also appreciate the fact that there are fans who have only watched the show and have never read the books, and if I was them, like, I would want character development for the Crows. Like, I would want character development for Jesper and Wylan. I would want character development for Kaz and Inej. I would want character development for Nina and Matthias. And to just have them do nothing but just run around and steal things, that wouldn't be very satisfying. So I understand that predicament of wanting to create character development while still making it canon to please book fans, which means they have to pull from stuff in the books. And so it's got to be really tricky to be like, okay, we'll pull this, but not this. We'll save this and we'll do it this way. And like, that's such a hard line to tread. And I overall, like 90% of it, I was pleased with. So I have to say I'm okay with it. And I think as book fans, we also have to accept that there are going to be changes anytime a book is turned into a television show or a movie. It's never going to be just exactly line for line, word for word on the screen. And if we're honest with ourselves, we don't want that. I don't want that. I do want to be surprised. And there were a few things that, because they stuck to the books, I knew what was coming, and so it wasn't even as enjoyable for me because I'm like, oh, I know what plotline they're doing here. I'm like, I know exactly what they're gonna do. So, in some ways we like change even if we don't want to admit it. And I have to applaud the writers and the producers, and I'm sure Leigh Bardugo was a part of that, in sort of crafting this season in a way to produce a good show while still attempting to keep canon, keep the characters consistent to who they are, and please everyone. It's not a tall order at all. So I want to talk a little bit about the actors. Overall, I thought everyone did a fantastic job. Of the newcomers, Patrick, I will forget his name, who played Nikolai, did a wonderful job. That's a hard role to fill, and people had high expectations for that. So bravo. Jack Wolf, Wylan, was a gem, and he was adorable and must be protected at all costs. He was so cute. And I love that they sort of gave an expanded role to Danielle playing Nina. I realized somewhere in the middle of the season that I think I love her portrayal as Nina almost more than I love book Nina, which I do love book Nina, but she brings this sort of easygoing, casual effervescence to it that I just love, and her sassiness is so on point. I love sassiness, so I loved her. Freddie was a highlight, as always. I think he had this moment very early on. It was a line. What was the line? Oh, it was something about like the barrel doesn't belong to kings, it belongs to bastards, which is a great line, by the way. But you could tell that he was having like an inside joke moment with himself where he knew, like, it was just a one-off line, but like he knew how much fans would love that line, and how, like, you know, because they've never called him the bastard of the barrel in the show, but just a sort of moment you could almost see Freddie like kind of smirk, and I was like, it's really lovely to have actors cast in these roles, and you can tell they love these characters as much as we as fans love the characters, and that's so endearing, and I could really sense that from everyone. So I love seeing their portrayals. I think they all did a wonderful job. I I felt bad for Matthias. I mean, part of it is the storyline, and those of us who know the Six of Crows storyline, part of that is he's still in Hellgate when that starts, and so there wasn't a whole lot for him to do, because it's not like they can break him out and then put him back in and then break him out and put him back in. So they kind of had to create some sort of character development for him, and I thought they did a really good job. A little bit felt like treading water just to like put something in to have him in, but I love the character, and so I'm really excited for actually having him join the rest of the Crows, hopefully, if they do a new season. I think he'll fit in really well, and he'll bring a good energy that I actually feel like they're missing, and so I'm very excited about that. The Shadow and Bones cast did a great job. Archie Renault, gold star. And Jessie May Lee, of course, as always, was lovely. Her character was a little more one note across the board this time around, and I think that was more the writing than her portrayal. But it just felt a little like, I'm gonna turn on the fold. I'm gonna turn on the fold. Like, there was some at the end, but I think there could have been a little bit more, and maybe that's the ball was just dropped a little bit in writing for the sake of getting the plot through. The one character I wish had sort of been given a little bit more is Kerrigan. I mean, Ben Barnes, I feel like he always just gets like the rough end of it. Like, really, he's so wonderful, and season 1 he brought so much grounding to the show. I felt this time he was very much just kind of like the villain. He was just there to be the villain. Although at the end, and I'll try not to spoil too much, but the last 2 episodes, he actually, I think, he had a moment where I think he gave across a lot of good advice and almost a warning for Alina, and I hope they dive more into that next season. But I thought that was actually quite insightful, and I understood him a little bit more. And I think whenever you get that sort of human side to villains, that always makes us love them a little bit more, and I wish there had been more of that than there was, but it's okay. So top moments for me, there was a lot. It was hard to choose. I loved the scene with Albie in the house with the piano. And I didn't realize this till afterwards, and I watched an interview that apparently Jack Wolf actually composed the little piece he played on the piano, which is amazing. And you could tell he was actually playing it, but the fact that he wrote it is very cool. And it sort of gave this lovely little insight to his character. And there was a few hints as well as to people who know a little bit more about Wylan. There's a reason maybe that he doesn't have a last name for those who haven't read the books, or that it's not spoken. But there was a few subtle moments where you could sort of see that he wanted to tell people a little bit more about his past, but didn't. And that was one of those moments that I sensed that. Sorry, I'm trying to be vague on purpose. Weirdly, I wrote down, there's like so many good moments, but the moment I wrote down was like Kaz giving his cane to Nikolai. It felt like an un-Kaz moment, but in a way that I was okay with. I was like, Kaz would never do this, but I kind of liked it. I was okay with it. David and Genya were so sweet, and they were my favorite part of the Shadow and Bones books, actually. And I'm not super happy about their ending. I won't spoil anything, but I'm not super happy about it. I'll just leave it at that. This was not a best moment for me, but it was a moment that I wrote down because I was so angry. But a little bit of spoilers, but there's a scene where the crows get caught somewhere, and there is like a drug that's sort of misted in, and it causes hallucinations. And Inej, I get it, has a hallucination about her and Kaz. And they get like so close to kissing, like so close. And I remember I was watching that and I was just getting angrier and angrier by the minute. I was like, if they kiss, I was like, I don't care if it's a dream, I don't care if it's a hallucination, they cannot. I will throw something at my TV. They cannot. This is so un-Kaz. And I do love at the end that they didn't, and that's because even in like Inej's dream state, she knows that. But and I'm sure that fans of like people who've never read the books were like, ooh, kiss, 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 kiss. And all of the book fans were like, no. So it wasn't my favorite moment, but it definitely brought out an emotional reaction in me, so I thought I would share that. I recorded a couple lines that I love from the show. One was Kaz's, the Bastards and Kings of the Barrow line. I loved that. I loved Baghra's line. I actually wrote it down. The suffering is as cheap as clay and twice as common. What matters is what you make of it. Is such a good line. And a lot of the lines that were taken from Six of Crows, I did like. I wasn't super happy that they were kind of like wasted in this show, but I thought they were appropriate and they fit. And my favorite of them was actually Inej's line to Kaz about, I will have you without armor. I thought as far as the character development and where it was set in the show, I think it was perfectly placed, and I'm not angry at it. I'm happy with it. So we don't know at this point if there is going to be another season. If I'm guessing it will be a mostly Six of Crows with a little bit of the Shadow and Bone people, if there is, which is kind of true to the books if you've read the books. I'm guessing if they do get to do another season, it will cover the Jurda Parem storyline, as I assume. And it will cover probably getting Matthias out of Hellgate, going to Fjerda, that sort of stuff. They will also probably set up, I'm guessing, a little bit of like the King of Scars continuing on the storyline with King Nikolai and that sort of stuff, and the, what is it, the Triumvirate? I never know how to pronounce that, with the three, Genya, Zoya, and was supposed to be David, but is not David. Not to be a super big spoiler, but is not David, is Alina, which didn't make me very happy. Also, spoiler for the end of the show, sorry, just skip this if you don't want to hear it. I did not like how they ended stuff with Mal and Alina. I actually preferred the book version where they kind of like, everyone thinks they're dead and they run off and hide in the countryside and live their life and enjoy. I thought, I mean, I understand why they did that, and I'm assuming it's so that in the next season they can still have some character development and be in the show and, you know, contribute to it. But I also felt a little bit like when they treated Mal as sort of, as soon as he was no longer an amplifier for Alina, that he had no feelings for her anymore, and it was just because of that, which kind of, I think, I don't know, I think it did a disservice to their relationship as a whole over 2 seasons. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, there will be stuff for them to do in the next season, obviously. Yeah, and I'm curious if they're gonna do anything with Alina in terms of sort of the idea of you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. They possibly hinted at that a little bit at the end, where she performed the shadow cut and not the light cut. So that was interesting. And yeah. Oh, also, a possible love triangle with Kaz, Inej, and Toya. Yes. Yes. If that means we get jealous Kaz, I'm on board for this. I am so on board. I was like, yes. But anyway, I'm very, very hopeful that we will get a season 3, whether it's called a season 3 or it's called like Six of Crows or whatever it is that they're going to sort of market it as. I'm excited to continue. I really, really want that storyline. I think everybody does, so I hope we get it. And I'd be excited to sort of see a little bit of like the King of Scars storyline, a bit more, integrating that stuff into it. I think that would really bolster the season and make it a lot of fun. So here's hoping. But yeah, anyway, that's my review / rant. Shadow and Bone season 2. Let me know your thoughts, what you loved about the show, what you hated, how you felt about the merging of the book and the TV show and the sort of difficulties with that. Let me know your thoughts. And yeah, I'll see you all later. Bye.